Welcome back to Plastic Addicts. I'm Ryan. This is my co-host, Kevin. This is where we talk about all things pop culture, TV, comics, movies, and toys. Most importantly, the toys. Where we last left off, Kevin and I were talking about the Mystery Men Shoveler action figure from the 1999 film Mystery Men. Here's a little bit more of an in-depth discussion of the film, which I was lucky enough to rewatch right before we recorded this. Thank you very much, streaming services out there. And Kev, I gotta say, man, I forgot how much I love the movie. It's definitely, especially in this current world that we live in with like all these superhero characters and movies, it definitely takes a unique look where clearly it's taking itself seriously, which is kind of refreshing because I feel like that we've had a string of superhero movies where they don't take themselves seriously because they see an opportunity to make a joke, and humor is like the best form of whatever. But I love the fact that it takes itself
a pillow. Humor is the best form of whatever. No, but like I know what you were saying there. It looked like it was taking itself seriously, but it was also very self-aware of how ridiculous that it was, and I think that's what actually made it so funny, in the sense that it was being taken so seriously, and it was intentionally funny. It wasn't like, oh, this is supposed to be. It knew how ridiculous it was, but it played into how ridiculous it was, and I think that's so. When you say seriously, that's what you mean?
Yeah, no, I mean like the fact of the matter is, the name of the city is Champion City, and they have that line where Ben Stiller goes, he is so and so. What's the character?
Captain Amazing is Captain Amazing. Yeah,
Captain Amazing is his the counterpart. That is his secret identity. And William H. Macy goes, no, that's not possible. He wears glasses.
Yeah, Lance Hunt wears glasses. Captain Amazing doesn't wear glasses. It's like, yeah, takes them off when he transforms. Wouldn't be able to see. I love that.
It's so great.
Yeah.
That just kind of just sums it up in a lot of ways. Is like he's it's like Bruce Wayne meets Batman, or meets Superman, meets I guess we were talking about maybe he's more of like it's funny because he's almost a parody of the current Iron Man before we even got the current Iron Man in some ways.
Wait, who is Captain Amazing?
Captain Amazing. Like, he could be considered a parody of the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man because he is like super, suave about things and cool and quippy, and then behind the scenes he's a little bit ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Same idea.
Well, what I think is great about him, the fact that he's not above corporate sponsorship. He's covered with like logos from various products, and he's a corporate superhero. And in today's world, like which is hilarious, if like a superhero was a real thing, like if Iron Man was a real person, there would be thousands of companies lining up to pay him to slap their logo onto Iron Man. I think that's also just, it's just a take on the corporate America. It is what it is. I'm not trying to say like corporate America is going to ruin us all. It's like, hey, it is what it is. And that's what I love about this. And also a little fun fact, we didn't actually cover this in our review. Kinka Usher, who was the director of this, this is the only movie that he had ever directed. And he's more known for doing commercials. Like, he's very, like, I think his most famous one is the Yo Quiero Taco Bell commercial, and he's done a couple of Super Bowl commercials, but he's also done a lot of Pepsi commercials. And when you had like the Pepsi logo on Captain America, when he just like rips it off and he's just like, screw it, that may have been like a little Kinka Usher influence there, but yeah, no, but back to what I was saying. Yeah, it's what's also kind of punk rock about this movie, in the sense that, you got this big corporate superhero, he gets all the attention, gets all the love, and you got these other guys, this ragtag group of heroes whose powers are terrible. But they're able to band together and overcome. Again, spoiler alert. But honestly, if you're watching this video, there's a very real chance you've seen the movie. But
there's a very possible chance.
If you haven't seen the movie, I want you to pause this video, go see it, because there are going to be spoilers ahead from this point on. So if
It's
you haven't,
currently streaming on Stars. If you go to the Stars website, and you don't have an account, or if you have Hulu, you can get Stars through Hulu, or there's a lot of, or Amazon. There's a lot of ways you can see this movie.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Exactly. Or you could see it the way I first saw it. See it on VHS.
Yeah.
Because that's actually true. That's one of the reasons I've seen this movie so many times is growing up, my parents, they have a beach house, and whenever we would go, they had only had like X amount of tapes, just because it was mostly just a house just to put your stuff while you went to the beach or you did anything else. But there'd be a lot of days, like rainy days, like, hey, do you just want to watch a movie? And like we had this, it was either watch Mystery Men or watch Toy Story for the nth time. So we'd watch this or just like a bunch of other movies that I just wasn't old enough to appreciate, because this came out when I was about maybe I think 11 or so. So by the time we had the VHS, I was 12, and we just watched. I just fit right in. I just thought it was hilarious, even from a young age. But anyway, again, spoiler alert from here on out. Go watch the movie if you haven't seen it. So anyway, now that we're back, Greg Kinnear as Captain Amazing, I think he's an hilarious guy. He plays the jerk so perfectly. I think to me, he's got one of the better entrances of any superhero, in the sense that, I mean, we're going to get to the shoveler in a minute. Yeah, I got him right up here. But just to give people an idea of who this guy is, he shows up into the nursing home, and, he kicks the crap out of the Red Eyes, like just like a random group of thugs that decides to just, I don't know, like, what were they? Yeah, they came to ransack a nursing home or something. I don't know what they're.
Yeah, the what are they called? The Red Eyes?
The Red Eyes, yeah, that was their.
Attacking a nursing home where a guy in his like probably his 40s is trying to get with one of the women at the nursing home. Just throwing that out there, because it is a noticeable thing in the beginning, and then you find out he's a very important character to the story.
Exactly. That's why he's like, I'm just here for the ladies. And actually, we'll get to him in a minute. Well, but no, it was. He comes in, he flies in, he saves the day. Because like, when you juxtapose, because that's when we meet the Shoveler, the Blue Raja, and Mr. Furious for the first time. And you see when they start fighting everybody, you see like kind of like how underqualified they are to be fighting crime. And then in swoops Captain Amazing, and he starts beating up everybody. But one thing I think that's amazing, like, when he's walking through, he's getting his picture taken, and he just like rolls, like he walks up to that woman in a wheelchair, gets her picture taken with her, click, and then he just like continues to let her roll away. He completely snubs off a little kid and just gets into a limo that's waiting outside with his publicist. And
his publicist is great, especially when that, like, the reporter goes, "How do you feel about your Pepsi ad like being canceled?" And he's like, "What?
I hadn't heard."
The most serious we've seen him yet.
Yeah.
Like, this is the crime. This is the travesty.
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny. It's a fun thing about that publicist. His name's Ricky Jay. He's actually he has a line that says, "I'm a publicist, not a magician." I think we covered this in the previous video, but in reality, he actually is a very world-renowned magician. Yeah, because it's funny. As I was watching this with my wife, and she's a huge Magic fan. Like, she has she's got like a membership to the Magic Castle, and we've gone up there a bunch of times and things like that. But she said, "Oh, that's Ricky Jay," and she actually even she noticed. Like, she was like, "Oh my god!" And she never notices like Easter eggs or anything like that. And she's like, "Wait a minute, that's funny. He is a magician. I've seen him."
That's wild.
Yeah, because it is kind of funny that, like, you hear you see the city, they're clamoring for Captain Amazing. They love Captain Amazing, but in reality, Captain Amazing, his powers are just as underwhelming as pretty much anyone else's, except for maybe the Sphinx in the entire movie. Because, I mean, the Sphinx can actually cut guns in half with his mind, which is like a really random power to have. But
it's weird too. Like, it's just like, we don't know where he came from. Like, he just starts splitting the guns.
Exactly. He just
I want to talk about that
up.
sequence.
Sequence
right before we get into right before that we meet the Sphinx at some point, because that is probably one of the most ridiculous scenes in the whole film to me.
Oh, when they've gotten together, like at his limousine. where they're like fighting him.
Yeah, when they're at Casanova's limousine and like everyone's doing cool shit, and then like Ben Stiller's just on top of the car, jumping up and down and hitting it, and it's like
and you see
he
Jeffrey
like when he
Rush's
looks up, he's
character
like,
in the car.
ah!
You see Jeffrey Rush's character in the car that's shaking. He's like, no, I love
No, it was just so funny because it's supposed to be this like obviously the character thinks he's so serious, and yet he just totally it blows up in his face. Like,
So in reality, I think like when it comes to Captain Amazing, because like he's got the corporate sponsorships behind him. He's got a publicist. He's got he's got his secret identity. Obviously, he's got a place of power. Like was it Lance Hunt? Yeah, Lance Hunt is his name. Billionaire Lance Hunt. That's how they refer to him. Do you know billionaire Lance Hunt? So he's obviously got pull because his powers are literally, I mean, he doesn't have powers either. He's just got a suit that flies around and just punches people. And that's it. So when you look at guys like the Shoveler, whose power is he shovels well, and actually I wonder, it's revealed on the back of this, because this is actually what we were talking about in our previous video, the Playing Mantis Shoveler figure. On the back, I don't know if you can see this, but there's little dossiers for everybody here. And the Shoveler, it's a blue-collar worker by day, a superhero by night. The Shoveler battles crime and injustice with his trusty spade. He is truly an everyman fighting for those who are just trying to make an honest living in a dishonest world. And I was like, no, that's actually kind of sweet. That's very Captain America-esque in a way. It's very blue-collar. But some of these... But yeah, but what I love about these, like these little dossiers here, because I don't know who wrote them, but it was obviously somebody at Playing Mantis who wrote these. But yeah, there's also like a Dark Horse Comics like little tie-in here and everything like that. I really love that.
Oh, very cool
for this. But one that one thing that stood out to me on here was like the Blue Raja, just because I thought, not the Blue Raja, the Captain Amazing dossier. A true hero of Champion City, Captain Amazing is comfortable promoting toothpaste as he is fighting crime. That's just it. Yeah. That's his whole dossier. It's like he fights crime and promotes toothpaste. That's all. Because out of here, they give everybody somewhat of like a power. Like the Blue Raja, it says, fork throwing abilities have been honed to lethal perfection. Dinnerware was never so deadly. The bowler, they talk about her bowling ball. Mr. Furious talk about his anger. And the spleen, they talk about as a result of prolonged exposure to a poisoned environment, the spleen is gifted with the power of toxic emissions. Don't get on his bad side. They talk about everyone else's power except for Captain Amazing, who also got a figure in this lineup. It's just the one series. This is just a series one. It was just the one lineup. But
honestly, the Captain Amazing figure sounds pretty cool. Like I'm game.
Yeah, no, I'm totally gonna try to. I'm gonna try to find one and try to get the whole series for this. I found this was just most of my stuff. Ryan and I, we live in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of like vintage toy stores and hobby shops and conventions that we love going to. And I don't buy a whole lot of things online just because I'd much rather see it in person and buy it in person. If it means having to pay a little more, so be it. If I want it, I want it. But yeah, I found this in a store up in Burbank, and I just saw it hanging on the wall, and I was like, okay, that's awesome. I'm buying that. So
yeah, there's some really good stores out there for pretty much any of the stuff.
If you're a huge collector and you're in LA, check out Magnolia Boulevard in Burbank. There are a ton of different stores there. And also, if you're ever off in Pasadena, there's a good number of stores up there too. But anyway, I digress. So with our three heroes, like the Shoveler, the Blue Raja, and Mr. Furious, who Mr. Furious is probably the most pointless in the entire but not pointless, but like he really shows like, yeah, he's super angry, but like his anger doesn't really do anything. And like they even mention it's like, yeah, you lifted a bus once, that's a power. And it's like, well, no, it was more of a push. That still requires superhuman strength. It's like, well, the bus driver had his foot on the ignition. And it was still.
It's such a great.
And then it's just like rage is really taking over, and he climbs up the wall. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, no, that I remember seeing that scene in theaters when I was a kid with the forks, because I, as like a little kid, I think I was like, I was probably 7 or 8 when the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I was probably 7 when the movie came out, maybe 8. If I don't know what time of year it came out, but more likely 7. And so I saw it, and I was like, that's so cool that he was climbing the forks. Like as a little kid, I was like, that's so cool. As like an adult, I'm like, that's so ridiculous. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So slight change, my reaction to it. My passion for it though doesn't change because it's still really fun and clever and unique. Like, who would have thought of that before that sequence in this movie? Like, he climbs forks, he climbs cutlery, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, it's one of those things, like there's a tie-in because like with well, it's a callback to an earlier scene when the Blue Raja's mom catches him like putting forks into like his, his bag or whatever. And she's like, do you need more forks? And she was saving them. They were like his wedding day forks. It's so weird.
that was a great scene.
And it was nice to have like the mom, like, I'm a superhero, mother. It's like, a superhero? It's like, yes, Blue Raja is my name, and I know I don't very much blue, but if you know your history, it does make complete sense. The point is, blah, blah, And she's like, need more forks? I got more. So.
No, that was one of my favorite things is like if you know your history and
Mm-hmm.
all that with like the Raj and England, and you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, like each character's like little personal relationship of the core 3 that we meet, Furious, Raja, and Shoveler, are so uniquely different, but so clever. And also it's like in the sequence where the Shoveler meets his family, his wife says, you're a great husband and you're a fantastic father, but that's all you are. And like,
and that's
like
that's
so
all.
sad.
That's all you need to be, And it's funny because like she obviously doesn't really. She's supportive to a point. Obviously, it's like you're going out every single night fighting bad guys with a shovel. You have a family. Stay here. But but the funny to me, like as a person who annoys his significant other very much. She's actually over there. She's giving me a look right now. No, she. There was like one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie was like the tryout scene where they bring in all of like the terrible like superheroes and stuff like that. And one of them was Dane Cook for the Waffler, But there was a scene where like it just opens up.
That was Dane Cook?
You get a pool and a couple kegs, you can get all these guys out. And they all look at the shovel and he's like, oh no. And then it just cuts to the scene and then you see like his wife and there's like a guy in like a chicken suit or whatever, just like, I'm like, one person vomits in my pool, I'm going to divorce you. That's fair, honey. I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I actually think that was like a great scene. And then also like his little boy like is super cute, and he says, what does he say? He goes,
I believe in you, Daddy.
Yeah, he goes, I believe in you, Daddy. And the mom's like, don't encourage your father, hun. But did you notice what shirt he's wearing?
What's up?
His son is wearing a Captain Amazing shirt when he says it.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Does he really?
He's got like a superhero on it, and I'm pretty sure it's Captain Amazing. But it's just like a generic like body going like this and like flying. And I feel like it was like I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's got to be Captain Amazing. But it's just like really funny because Captain Amazing is so mainstream that like this character's son wears his merchandise and he's trying to be a hero.
Yeah.
And it's like success versus none at all. Like those little moments, there's subtleties. Like I didn't realize that was Dane Cook playing the Waffler.
Yeah, it was actually kind of funny. Also, in that scene, there's a little couple of cameos. Like one is the guy that plays Ballerina Man. He's actually a stunt coordinator for the show. I'm trying to look up his name if I can find it here. Because I remember when I was researching this, I found that out. Like the Ballerina Man guy, like I think he was one of the main stunt coordinators for this movie. Like he did a lot of the stunts, and they just had him. And he was like, "Screw it, let's just like this random thing." But also Doug Jones. Doug Jones from Shape of Water and Hellboy. And
yeah.
basically Guillermo del Toro's model, throw as many prosthetics on as well. He plays Pencilhead, like the dad, like, I am Pencilhead and I am son of Pencilhead. We erase crime.
Yeah.
That's Doug Jones. That was like,
I didn't know that. That's also a really good one. He's
yeah.
also Abe Sapien and Hellboy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a little fun facts about that, but also just to show them, like, in this world of, like, I guess, superheroes, just it was so fun to just to see, like, okay, because we already have, like, a group of, like, ridiculous superheroes. How are we going to make a scene where we can make them even worse, like the worst crime fighters we could possibly find? And you could just see you could just, like, during that scene, you could just imagine all the writers, like the script writers for this, like, okay, we have these terrible heroes that were all based off of the Flaming Carrot comic book, but we have to even make up even worse. Like, what are the worst superheroes that we could find? Like, the dumbest things. Like, you can tell they're probably just looking around the room going, oh, there's a radio, and they have, like, a random, like, it's not like, it was just like, hello, fellow crime fighters, and it's just like this little nerdy radio guy, or they have, like, a squeegee dude, like, I'm a bullfighter, I fight the bull. It was like, what does that even mean?
No, it was great. It was just totally ridiculous.
But I still think, like, I know we discussed this in our top 8 video, but trust me, go watch that, you'll love it. We had, like, for Kel Mitchell's character, because growing up I was also a huge Kenan and Kel fan, so we had, when I saw Kel Mitchell's he was the invisible boy whose power is he can only turn invisible if nobody's actually looking at him. Or if he looks at himself, he becomes visible again. It's just, like, the most pointless thing. And actually, a little fun fact about that is that was actually, like, a drunken joke made by the author of The Flaming Carrot. And the Flaming Carrot is the comic book that this movie is based off of, for those of you who didn't know. And what was the writer's name? It was Bob Burden. Yeah, he was the author of the comic book. And he went to the producers with it as a drunken idea. They thought it was so funny that they actually just put it into the movie. Like, they created his character into the movie based off of a joke that Bob Burden told them at one time at a party or something. So, but, his character's actually, he plays a huge role. It's like, you think of him as, like, a little joke, like, he doesn't actually do anything. But he actually plays important. 2 very significant roles in this. Like, one, he introduces them to the bowler. Like, he's able to organize, like the tryout where the bowler finally comes in. And 2, at the very end with the machine, like that, the giant, like, laser thing that, like, zaps anything that moves. He walked up and he was able to turn it off. So
because
you can actually make an argument that, because, like, the bowler was, out of all of them, was the only one with any real, like, actual muscle, like, any rep powers, because, like, her ball can, like, destroy things. So, and you could really think, like, without the invisible boy, the most pointless superhero, with next to the most pointless superpowers you could possibly imagine. Without him, like, the entire movie, they would have failed. Simply, you know what I mean? So you could say, like, so yeah, it's actually kind of nice. If you ever think, like, oh my God, I can never do something, like, I'm completely worthless. Yeah, it's not true. That's what I really dug about it. And I know it was sort of a joke that they threw in, but what I took away from it was, like, if you ever think, if you're ever feeling like, yeah, I'm gonna get a little sappy now, but if you ever feel like you're not up to snuff, or you feel like your skill set is relatively pointless, there's a purpose for everybody, and that's and there's a very important purpose for everybody, and that's what I really dug about the Invisible Boy.
It was a great, like, and he's also brings a little bit more of, like, a youthfulness to the cast, because everyone's a little bit older, so it's a fun thing where it's not like, middle-aged man who has a family or lives with his mom or thinks it's cool to talk like this, wear a leather jacket. I think one of my favorite lines in the whole movie, because you mentioned the bowler, is when it is near the end of the film when she goes, okay, now I can go back to grad school. That was the deal. Like,
yeah.
There are just some really great, because she clearly is the only, like, the real muscle for the team. I thought that the ballerina guy who came in the tryout sequence, I thought that was, like, supposed to be, like, in the previews, people would think, if they had seen the previews of the film, like maybe that's the Sphinx, and then for them to see that it's not and it's completely different.
Mhm.
The Sphinx also has a great line when he says, "I want to be the super squad," like at the very end of the film. It was
Mhm.
like totally out of character. This character's been super serious, and anytime you ask him a question, he goes back and just says something forwards and then backwards. Uh,
Well, yeah, it's like, and they even call
like
him out, but it's like, yeah, he's like pseudo. It's one of those like pseudo philosophical type guys, but like I think it's just like, but one of my,
he's crazy.
but he is hilarious. But he does have superpowers in the sense that
Yeah,
he does save them. It's like they always think it's like that, and you can, because I think when they mention it's like, well, this is Sphinx, of course. Like, oh, well, what are his powers? But he's terribly mysterious. Well, like
yeah,
that's it. That's his power. He's mysterious. Well, terribly mysterious.
yeah. No, it was great. It's
tap with his mind, and it's like what? It's like this random.
um and then also the villains, like the freaking like disco guys, like or whatever they were called.
The Disco Boy. Yeah, well, Casanova Frankenstein is the main villain, and for whatever reason, I don't know if he got put away in the 70s, but yeah, all of his henchmen, like his like army of like henchmen, they're all like disco themed. He's got like a henchman of disco loving like henchmen. That's it. And like Eddie Izzard, he's like the sort of like the lead disco guy. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, no, that there's always the character that has the vendetta to settle with one of the bad guys, and I thought they did that like really well
Oh yeah,
because they
with
didn't
the
even like
bowler.
sugarcoat it or like have any kind of lead up to it. There was just like, oh, you're baby Buller. I killed your dad. Like
Mhm.
it was like
Yeah, well, there's also like they even like even the exposition for her dead father was hilarious because they were sitting there like, "You didn't tell me you're the bowler's daughter." That's right. He taught me everything I knew. It's like, you know, you know when he died, it's like, yeah, the police thought it was an accident. He fell down an elevator shaft onto some bullets. It's like, I always thought that there might be some foul play in your father's death. And it's like, so have I. It's like,
yeah, no, it's
I thought it was
that's
an
the
accident. He fell down an elevator shaft onto some bullets. So,
and that's the other like that's another one like
yeah,
the
but they played it so serious, and that's why it was
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly like another scene. Just like the he has glasses, Captain Amazing doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Same idea of this craziness of like this
Mm-hmm.
like no one reacts to the fact that yeah that is kind of serious. Like
Mm-hmm.
um
Well,
the
speaking
go
of
ahead.
not so serious, and that's what I think it's even great is Tom Waits' character. He plays their weapons designer. He's the guy that was hitting on the old ladies,
Old ladies, yeah.
and which also is even funny because like Tom Waits, he was like he was one of like Heath Ledger's like inspirations to make the Joker. Like at least the voice, the Tom Waits voice, kind of normal, but you know, but interesting fact, his character, he specializes in non-lethal weapons, with like the tornado in a can, a blame thrower, which is just like I don't even know how these things work, by the way, because he doesn't really mention he mentions how like the shrink ray works, like it's like a dry cleaner thing. It's like, yeah, it just shrinks your clothes to it shrinks like they can't breathe, which is weird. It
Yeah,
was based on dry cleaning technology, but a blame thrower, it was like
that was
they just start throwing insults at each other. It's like you shoot this at two people and they just start arguing and then you can walk away. It was like, what?
it was great. No, the clothes shrinker, the
Mhm.
blame thrower, the little tornado
Mhm.
can, like he was like, all of my weapons are non-lethal, which actually is perfect because superheroes aren't supposed to kill people in a lot of these stories. Obviously, Marvel and DC have changed that, but that's the core value is like these
They
characters
don't
won't
kill
cross a
people,
line.
exactly. Or at
Yeah,
least it's a core value now, I think, because like I mean,
yeah,
first superheroes could kill people. Look, Batman killed people well into like the 50s, but like,
yeah,
and
that's
also
true.
if you look at like guys like the Shoveler, like if you, obviously it's not like shown to kill anybody in the movie, but if you were to take a shovel and smack somebody in the face with it, that could be.
concussed at least. It's just funny. Like I just think of these moments and these sequences, and I do really appreciate like the films as a whole, or the film as a whole, because there's just a consistency of
Mhm.
it's not like they break character at any point with it. I mean, like
Yeah.
Mr. Furious, he really is angry and he hates the world, and then he like meets someone that he likes, and then he's happy again.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, I think it's interesting about this movie. It's very, I mean, it's like a loving parody, almost sort of like The Tick, in the sense that it's like a loving spoof of
yeah,
superhero movies. But it didn't do so well in the box office at the time. And if you think about it, like why? I mean, I know superhero movies are everything now, but like at the time, it was making fun of like if you think about like 1999, like the superhero movies that came within like because that was like right before Spider-Man hit and a bunch like the Tobey Maguire and really launched like what we know now. But like back in those days, like it was still like Steel and Batman and Robin and Spawns and it's like superhero movies just really weren't at the front runner. Like, do you think if this movie was released today, it would do better at the box office?
I don't know. It's a little bit more movies are a little bit more expensive now. It's definitely been like harder to get people to go to the movies, I feel like, in some ways. Like
Hmm.
diehard movie lovers go to the movies, but I think if it had come out maybe like 2014 or 15, like right before Guardians of the Galaxy, if it had come out before Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it would have done really well.
Hmm.
Maybe if it came out like before, what was the one that Suicide Squad? Same idea. It would have done well with the critics at least,
Hmm.
comparatively speaking. But I don't know if it would have made a lot of money because people are so much more like posh about the movies they see, and I think that's kind of disappointing because now it probably would be moved to a Netflix series over a movie. Like that's probably what would happen, or a
I mean,
streaming series.
if Netflix wants to get the rights to the Flaming Carrot and make more Mystery Men, I am so down for that. I'm sure
I could get
everybody
behind that
would.
too.
I know. But it's at the time because I mean, it is. I mean, it was underwhelming, completely underwhelming when it first opened up, but it's really gained like a cult following over the years. And what do you think it is about maybe like the status quo of the time? I think it also has to do with like the status quo of the time in the sense that because if you also look at like Austin Powers, for example, was also in theaters like 99. I guess it was when The Spy Who Shagged Me, because Austin Powers is just like a love letter / parody to the James Bond films. And
Yeah, it
the Pierce Brosnan Bond was was established because I think because he had two, because I think yeah, because I mean Goldeneye came out in 95. um what was it, The World Is Not Enough, was that a second one? Or no
uh
Die Another Day was just no, that was fourth. God.
uh Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah, Tomorrow Never Dies, and then The World Is Not Enough, I think, came out in what, 99 or 2000, was it? Something like
Yeah,
that. So it was right around. So Pierce Brosnan Bond was right in the forefront. So I guess if you had like a guy like Austin Powers who's making fun more of like the Sean Connery Bond and like the craziness of the Roger Moore Bond, the absurdities of the Roger Moore Bond with like his gadgets and whatnot. But do you think if there was like a huge superhero franchise at the time that was really, because like the Batman film, like the Burton Batman films, had been killed a merciful death. Like they were going to go with the fifth one, but when Batman and Robin underperformed, they just gave it the axe.
yeah.
Do you think if there was like, do you think like, because I mean, I'm just trying to think of like 1999. Superheroes weren't really like front runners for anything at that point. They weren't
No,
really
I mean
forefront
we
of
didn't get an.
mind, or like of mainstream media anyway.
It's like it's kind of like I think about like the movie Hulk came out in like 2001, 2 or 3,
Mm-hmm.
and like Spider-Man came out around that time as well. And those were big deal.
Yeah, well, Spider-Man
X-Men
came
made
out in '02.
okay. Spider-Man
Oh.
came out in '02. When did X-Men come out? Was that
X-Men
2001?
was '01, or it was 2000, I think. It was like X-Men.
Okay,
Yeah, this was like
so
right
yeah,
before
it's
X-Men.
like and X-Men they want to do nittier, grittier, edgier, where it was like the suits weren't even the same suits anymore at all.
Yeah.
So it's a very different time, I guess, in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Like
'cause I would think like, because like to me, like a lot of when it came to superheroes, like, like the animated series were pretty much like the front runners for a lot of like superhero content of the time, but like,
Yeah.
but even by 99, they were starting to die down a little bit, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think the
Batman still had, was it, not Batman Beyond. Was it Batman Beyond?
yeah, if it hadn't come out yet, it was coming out in the next year or two.
Exactly. But like, think about like the group, like at least my generation, with like, Batman the animated series and Spider-Man, like the Amazing Spider-Man, the X-Men, a lot of because we were about 12, so we're starting to phase out, moving on to other things at that point. So I don't know. It's just like, it just made me think like, if this movie came out in a different time, would it have a bigger audience? But what I love about this is that, it's over 20 years old and we're still talking about it, which to me, that's awesome, because I think this movie's always going to be relevant. Like in a sense, it's timeless, just because it's really obscure as to what time frame this takes place in, because it does take place in this metropolis, but disco was obviously a thing, or at least it used to be, and that died out when the 80s rolled around. But you see everybody's car that they're driving, they're all these old like jalopies from like the 50s or something like that.
Oh yeah, and then the frat boys look like they're from Revenge of the Nerds.
Exactly. Well, they even look like before Revenge of the Nerds. They look like they look like they're from the 50s, you know what I mean? But also still have like the hip hop gang that look modern as all hell.
Like, gang is where I was going with that too.
Yeah. So it's really, in a sense, like it's actually it's brilliant in a way, in the sense that, this is actually kind of timeless in how it takes place, because you watch this and you don't think of like, oh, that looks so old, or oh, hey, you know what I mean? It looked old when it first came out, and people just sort of looked at that like, it's got a lot of like, especially with the technology, it's got like a lot of classic stuff. Because I hope a flamethrower is never invented, but if one is ever invented, people aren't going to look back and go, oh, look at how giant the flamethrowers used to be. Now you can just have it on an app. Like, it's not a thing.
Yeah, it's a little wild that they like I just love the fact that they came up with all these, or I don't know if they're in the comic book. You've read the comic book, right, Kev? Or
I have
you?
not read the comic book. Honestly,
Okay.
I've been trying to find the comic book. Ever since I found out this was based on a comic, the comic book's hard to come by. And
okay.
I mean, it's just relatively rare, because it had such a short run. It had such a limited release, just because it was an indie book back in the day. I know Dark Horse owns it now, but but it had such a limited run. They're actually relatively. I'm gonna look up Flaming Carrot #1 really quick, just to see what people are fetching for it.
Well, it's just like, if it's not from the comic book, like the flamethrower and like all the other weapons that they come up with, like they're very clever. And it's like, can you imagine guys in the writer's room, if they're the ones coming up with it, like the reactions you get?
Mm-hmm. Oh no, absolutely. And what's even great? Like I can't even find a first edition or a #1 Flaming Carrot, but I did find an action figure that's fetching about $60, and that's just the figure for the Flaming Carrot. So, but yeah, that's the Flaming Carrot. Like it's just like a guy with a giant carrot on his head, which is actually ironic, because they didn't use the character on this. I know the characters from the movie Mystery Men, they debuted in the Flaming Carrot as sort of like side characters, but the producer of this film was going like, well, this is a guy with a giant carrot on his head. Even that's kind of like too far-fetched. But what if we take these side characters and make a story about them? And the only real reference to the Flaming Carrot in this movie is there's a scene where Mr. Furious is walking his potential girlfriend home, and like in the background there's a little neon sign that says Flaming Carrot, as like a little Easter egg. But that's actually it. So it's kind of like, imagine if it's almost reminiscent of Arkham, in a sense that like, oh, all these characters are sort of side characters.
Yeah.
in a movie. But like if you get like, like a Spider-Man movie, and the main focus is on, Doc Ock and Aunt May, it'd be like, okay, it's kind of interesting. There's no mention of Spider-Man or Pete. There's just like a picture of Peter in the background of one scene. That's kind of how it is, but that's sort of
yeah. Kevin, have you ever seen Batman Brave and the Bold? So I felt very like reminiscent of that as well, even though Batman the Brave and the Bold came out in the later 2000s, like maybe like 2008 or 9, or maybe even 2010 or 11. I felt it was very similar in a lot of ways to this movie, and the wonkiness of the characters, the wonkiness of the villains. Because one of the coolest things they did in Brave and the Bold was they had these never have you seen before, never have you heard of this bad guy or that bad guy. And these are real superhero characters that were in the Batman comics that no one ever talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of gave me that idea of like, they're taking these characters that are like, they sound ridiculous, but they are actual characters in comic books in a lot of lights. Like,
oh yeah,
like the
no,
Minutemen,
I mean, these are lifted straight from literature.
Uncle Sam, like that kind of thing, like just ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, speaking of characters, let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about. Let's go over. I mean, I don't think we've gone over the core. We've talked about the core group of like the 3 mystery men, but when they expanded, just for our audience, obviously, you got the Blue Raja, you got the Shoveler, you got Mr. Furious, you got the Bowler, you got the Invisible Boy. We've talked about the Sphinx. He's mysterious, which is actually kind of brilliant in the sense that he just shows up mysteriously and he just sort of remains mysterious as to where he comes from the entire time. They're like, screw it, he's mysterious. That's part of his gig.
Yeah.
One that we haven't talked about is the Spleen. The Spleen, and here's a fun fact. I swear to God, this is true. Paul Rubens, the guy who played this Spleen. I had a picture for this. I met him a couple of months ago at a Monsterpalooza last summer, or 2 summers ago rather, because a buddy of mine, he's a huge Pee Wee Herman fan, and I got married last summer in 2019. So he was one of my groomsmen. So I actually got Paul Rubens' autograph to give him as a groomsman gift, right? Like. And he actually cool. Autographed, like I had like this vintage, I was at the con and I found like this vintage Pee Wee Herman sweatshirt that was made for like a kid that you would get at like a Kmart. I think it was a Kmart exclusive at the time. And he autographed it like Pee Wee, like all caps PWD. And I thought that was hilarious. And I asked him, Mr. Rubens, I'm a huge fan of yours. I loved you in Mystery Men. Could I pull your finger? And he just goes, all right. So he let me pull his finger. So
that's pretty great.
So Paul Rubens, he was so cool for just letting me do that. I just thought it was funny, but he was cursed by a gypsy woman who happened to be walking by that he blamed a fart on when he was like a teenager. So that's the best.
Such a great like unique way to come up with it is like, So I'm gonna say I love the idea of like this mysterious curse that's put on him because. Like you have the movie Holes, which I grew up loving, and
I mean, it's kind of funny
that Madame Zeroni puts on the Elnats family is if you don't honor your duty, this is what's going to happen. And you have like characters if they break a rule or they like a curse upon your house, like if someone dies, but no, he blamed a fart on her.
Yeah.
So now
he's
cursed with like
it's like since
knockout flatulence.
Since I was the one who smelt it, I will forevermore be he who dealt it, or whatever. It's like, that's disgusting.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
Sure. That's his entire, that was awesome. But yeah, I know, I just thought, and I also love like during like the training montage that they have, like nothing. Where they're like walking across the coals and like the fire keeps like farting and the fire keeps like igniting behind them and everything like that. And it's just like, I'm honestly, fart jokes make me laugh. I don't know why, they just do. Actually, I know why. It's because I do have slightly, I do have a bit of an immature sense of humor. So like.
No, but it's like,
it's like who doesn't love a good fart joke? Lighten up. It's a fart joke. We all have it, but. There's universality. I think that's what makes the Spleen universally enjoyable. We all fart, just like the book says. We all poop. We all fart. Everybody poops. So.
What's it called? The scene where he jumps into his butt into the limo and he farts and they pull it like a bomb.
Oh yeah, and he's just it's got like a wind.
Really intense and really serious and like tough. Like he's farting.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He's farting in the villain's face, and speaking of the villain, let's try to switch gears here and let's talk about Jeffrey Rush as Casanova Frankenstein. That, oh my God, and honestly, like they didn't like the thing about Casanova Frankenstein, they didn't even like play him as a joke. They're like, oh my God, this guy's like an actual like a legitimate super villain. You know, the first thing he does, like when he gets out of prison, not even prison, like out of like the mental institute, he blows it up. It's just like, and boom, just to get Captain Amazing's attention. And he knows he's Lance right off the bat. Like he doesn't say, there's nobody like he's kind of like, am I the only one who notices this? Okay, if I'm the only one who notices this, I must be a super.
Oh yeah, he even.
But it's like, and if I call it out, like he's,
yeah, and
I'm sort of stuck here, so I got to play along with it. But you know, he kills people, like he kills his own men. He's a super genius. He's got, you know, like what's the machine called with like, we'll get to the toggle scene, which is a great scene, by the way. It's a huge spoiler alert scene, but he's got he makes lasers that, you know, evaporate people and like.
Oh, there you are. Okay. No, yeah, I was gonna say he calls him Lance to his face, and like Captain Amazing doesn't even bat an eye. Like they have like an unspoken rule that like, yes, you know who I am, but I won't rat you out since you got me out of jail or something. Like,
yeah, and it's funny because he only gets him out of the mental institution because he's running out of villains to fight, and he needs the headlines. Yeah, he basically, in Captain Amazing, he's a terrible like he releases a super villain because he lost his Pepsi deal. You know, which also, it sounds like something that would legitimately happen in the real world. It's just like, oh, okay, we're losing customers. We got to make some more. You know, that's essentially what it is. You know, for losing headlines, it's like a publicity stunt that just him releasing Casanova Frankenstein.
Yeah, no, that's a publicity
stunt that backfired tremendously. You know,
he's kind of like a pro athlete or something, or like a pop star. When they do something ridiculous, there's always that whisper, like, did they do it for the publicity to get back into the discussion?
Oh yeah, or just to like, I mean, that's just what publicists do. I mean, and it's funny. I mean, I'm not here to knock what it is. I mean, it is what it is. It's not like, oh, this is what it always. It's been that way since day one, and it's going to be that way 1,000 years from now, if you know human beings still exist. But yeah, but it's one of those things where like a lot of people. It's just how it is. Like you try to, like, controversy creates headlines. It was clickbait for the time. It was just like, you know what, let's just try to, if I release the super villain and like capture him, you know, that's a great clickbaity story, and that might get me that'll get my revenue back, and it's just how it is. But you know, that was actually very honest, and it was just like everybody's, you know, it seemed when it came to like people's when it came to a character's motivations, I think the clearest motivation that was established in this movie was Captain Amazing's motivation. It's like, look, I mean, like the shoveler, he shovels well, and like what's great about these guys, it's like they all seem to just have like a duty within inside them that just calls them to action. They always just have like a natural call to action, whereas Captain Amazing is just, you know, financially driven. But it's very clear that he just is a psycho guy that just wants to see the world burn.
There's that line where he, you know, there's that line where he goes, now Casanova, that was a villain. We had some major battles, and they like go through like a couple of the horrible things he did. And it's not even like it's not even like a reaction. Like, oh yeah, he did some horrible things. No, that was a villain. Like that's
like, oh yeah, that was a villain. Remember when he did that? I was like it was reminiscing. I was like, oh yeah, that was so cool. You're like, duh, you know. But I think, all right, moving on now. Let's talk about this. I mean, to me, I've got 3 favorite scenes, like all-time scenes in this movie. One is the tryout scene. Okay. One, and one, I don't know why, this scene just always seems to crack me up, is the junket scene where Mr. Furious is talking to his boss, just junket. You know, it made me laugh. Because it just shows like what he does. Like he's an angry guy, and it sort of makes sense. Like he works in a junkyard just destroying stuff all day.
Oh yeah, no.
Like, yeah, if you got a lot of
Right.
anger, I mean, it completely makes sense. That's just what you do for a living. But one is the toggle flip scene. Oh, I should mention I have four. Like when they first meet Tom Waits' character, like and all that, like especially with the weapon scene. But the toggle scene where Captain Amazing is tied to a chair and they accidentally.
That's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie too.
It's like everyone heard me say reset button, right?
Yeah.
They're like, and I love it. It's just like,
But
oh my god,
like,
we killed him, and like Shoveler's just like, what do you mean we? I was right here. Nope.
but
Like
also
they
it was
accidentally
like they're
kill
like
him.
we already like they kept saying we already flipped the switch. Like, do you want us to
Yeah,
flip it again, or do you want us to flip a different
exactly. It's
talk?
like flip the
Like
second
he's
toggle, and it's like, wait.
it was like we did.
I just told you, flip the second toggle. What? Flip the toggle twice? How many toggle flips? Is there a reset button? Can we, like, how many toggle flips? All right, fine, I'll do it. Oops.
Like the beam starts to come down, he goes, "Uh-oh." But it's not even like he's that like scared. Like he knows he's gonna die right beforehand, but instead of
Well, I think it's just like he's so used to winning, and it's just like, oh, okay, they kind of it was I don't know if this is what they intended, but it was very reminiscent of Psycho, in the sense that, like, okay, Captain America or Captain Amazing, he gets captured. They got to take him out, and like instead of Captain Amazing getting killed like while they're trying to break it out, they accidentally kill him. In the sense that, like, the main player here is killed halfway through, and they're like, oops. And I think like if somebody were to get captured, like somebody, during the rescue, somebody would get killed, or their death would be avenged, or it would lead to something else, or just go, or they would stay behind to help them escape or do something. It's like, no, he just get stuck to a chair and they accidentally get killed, and they accidentally kill Captain Amazing. And there's also another scene where it's like, we release the captain, and it's sort of like, it shows how cowardice he is. Like, he just tries to play it off and try to play cool. It's like, you let me live, I'll be your sidekick, like the Amazing Boy or Casanova. And they just, you know what I mean? And it really just shows like how pathetic of a, he's not a hero at all. Like it really just shows how pathetic Captain Amazing is, and how, lack of a better word, not amazing he is,
Yeah, no, it's definitely like, also it almost is like a commentary on how we view like celebrity, like, or
Mhm.
like popular people in the spotlight, is like, and they go with this whole idea, but maybe it's not how it is. And it's a unique
Exactly.
commentary, because it's like they say don't meet your heroes, and he's everyone's hero, but he's actually a jerk.
Yeah,
Like
it's like he's a
it
jerk. He's got corporate money behind him. And when you see these other super, like, they just make do with what they have, and they're all salt of the earth. I think that's one theme that really plays with all of them. Like, they're all like salt of the earth. The other guys, like, not no one really pays much attention to them,
Yeah.
And the fact that they're still out there and they're still fighting, they're not doing it for money, they're doing it for like a sense of purpose, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think it is like a commentary on how we see celebrity. And there's nothing wrong with being a celebrity. Like, I'm not trying to knock
And
being a
there's nothing
celebrity.
wrong with being a fan of a certain
So, yeah,
celebrity.
exactly. Hell, comes to like, we're more fans of like celebrities' work as of the celebrity themselves. I mean, there are certain people that I would fanboy out, but I've actually, doing what we do for a living, we've actually have come across many famous people, but it's just like, yeah, they're just people like anyone else.
Yeah.
But it is sort of interesting how it, like Captain Amazing is like this celebrity, and they're like, yeah, maybe don't meet your heroes, that kind of thing. But it is a great comment. Like, it's like, well, like in the situations that we are now, like, we're gonna have like figureheads telling us one thing, but ultimately it's gonna be the relief workers, the nurses, the scientists, everything that are trying to pull together and actually create, like, a solution for the COVID problem that we're dealing with right now. So
Yeah.
I
Um,
didn't know that's where we were going with this, but that's where we wound up.
yeah,
So,
apparently.
and
Okay, so
that's just one of the amazing things about Mystery Men. It's made 1999. It's relevant today for other reasons. Just like any other work of art, you can attach a present problem to it, and it's still universal in the sense that, still play
true.
that kind of theme. So,
Um, okay, so my probably so I shared that one scene that we talked about. with the room with the toggle scene.
Oh yeah.
So that's one of mine. And then I'd say like my other two would probably be just that opening sequence in the film when
with the nursing home.
like everyone's in, yeah, and then like Raja throws the spoon and just like the whole sequence right after that as well. Like that whole turn of events in the opening of the movie.
Yeah.
Where they're in the diner.
Throw a spoon at the guy, Jeff.
Like just because you're learning who these guys are, and the line where he's like, "The guy who gets a salad always gets ripped off." Like,
yeah, it's like you should order more. Exactly, it's such a great thing. Like, I'm just saying, the man who orders the steak rips off the man who orders the salad. It's like we just order more food.
Yeah, no, it's I love that moment. And then my by far probably my favorite scene in the entire film, and it's like a weird scene, is when the shoveler is fighting the leader of the disco gang, or the second in command, like the muscle who drives the car, and they're the guy gets like a curtain bar, and he knocks away the shovel, and he goes to like hit him in the head, and he pulls out a spade and blocks it with a spade, and we haven't seen him use the spade yet.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And they mentioned the spade in here, his rusty spade, it's like a little trowel, like the tiny little shovel. Yeah,
it's like if like in a sword fight, like a short sword is considered better for defense. So like it's like almost like he pulls out a dagger to block a sword, and like instead though it's it's a spade.
Yeah, it's just like boom. It's like, oh, there we go. And there's also sort of a mention, like, what other weapons do you have? Like just like the hand, the arm, the fist, everything like that. There's like a little mention of like throwing like a train.
Yeah. He says your knee, your elbow, your fist, your head.
Yeah. Which is funny because like out of all of them, I think the shoveler is the only one that goes like one-on-one against some like goons and just starts beating them up with the shovel. And I thought that was awesome.
Okay, so yeah, those are probably my three, and my fourth would be when the spleen has the bullet in his ass, and they pull his finger to make the bullet fire out of his butt.
Oh, yeah, and it's just like annihilates everyone. It'll do. It goes down.
Yeah, it's great. There's some really very unique one-liners in this film. Like one of my favorite things about movies like this is when you go back and you watch them, there's one-liners that you don't remember that are just so clever. It's like if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. It's like watching an episode of The Office, which is, very funny, but if you're looking for the nuances, it's even more funny. Or Parks and Rec, same idea.
Yeah, there's absolutely. There's a ton of just like smaller moments, and like there's like 100 jokes get thrown at you, and you don't pick them up ever. I think especially what you're saying with the bowler, like Janeane Garofalo is hilarious in this movie. She's funny in everything she does, but something about like there's so many little like some not seemingly throwaway lines, but just like the way that she delivers everything with just like her patented sarcasm and wit. It cracks me up. She's amazing because I love her. One thing like she mentioned, like especially with like the Blue Raja, because you see a guy who's just like he's in a turban and he's got like these green flower. And he's got I'm pretty sure that he stole it from like a grandma. It was like a little pullover, like stole it from his mother or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, so you're a guy that converted so you're an English guy that converted to Islam, kind of like Cat Stevens. Is that your gig? Oh no, not at all. Now in England, like they went into England taking over India and everything.
It's oh my God, it's such a
great like British rock.
She's also probably
sovereignty or something. I don't even remember, but
well, yeah. And so she's like we talked about the only characters with like real superpowers. It's her with the bowling ball, and it's the Sphinx. And so
and later on the Invisible Boy.
Characters that are.
Let's not forget about the Invisible Boy.
Oh yeah. That's
ironic that we keep because that's sort of his thing. Like he's always so ignored, and it's actually to me he's got such a tragic backstory, almost like the bowler with her dad. Like at least she still has her dad because he talks to her, talks to the bowling ball, like because it's got her dad's skull in it.
Yeah.
And so she talks to it, and it's very reminiscent of like Wilson from Castaway or something like that. But there's one scene. It's like a quick line where the three of them show up to the Invisible Boy's house, like to his apartment rather. And he goes, it's like, I've always been ignored. It's kind of ironic how it happened. And as he's walking to his room, he goes, hey Dad, I'm going to my room with 3 strange men. That was it. That's all we saw of his dad. He completely ignored it. doesn't like, he obviously lives with his father. He's a boy and he's out like fighting crime, doing all this stuff, like hanging out at bars with like this like group of adults and everything like that. And it's
Well,
just,
yeah,
and that's, to me, that's so tragic. He's just so ignored by his own family that it's just like, okay, but he's still able to, he's still able to just remain upbeat and positive and everything like that. But
well, yeah, and he's truly an invisible, like he's invisible even without using his power. So it's kind of ironic that, yeah,
exactly,
that's what you're kind of saying, is that he's so ignored that he's completely invisible to people.
exactly.
So that is great. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, which is so sad when you think about it. But it's just like, don't ignore greatness, people. That's what we say. Like, appreciate, but everyone needs their time. But yeah, but back to the bowler we were mentioning. Like, yeah, she does.
So
she's the
she's
real
like,
like
you said
muscle
she's
of
kind
the
of like,
yeah, the real muscle of the team.
she's also has like normal human intelligence, so she's pretty much smarter than a lot of the rest of the team.
Mm. Well,
than most of the team.
She's definitely wittier. I mean, there is one scene. I mean, a lot of people miss it, but when they first drive, like, they drive like a giant magnet truck directly into Casanova's like mansion, everything. But they used her ball. She like raised her ball up and sort of used it as like a telescope or a periscope rather to look around the room. And I was like, oh, well, it's just like a little subtle. That's not really. I mean, it's just like nobody really talks. Oh, she can use that as like a second set of eyes almost. Like,
yeah, well, yeah, because she can communicate with it, so that makes perfect sense. Like, it's just such a unique like twist and turn of events in a lot of ways, and she also takes herself very seriously in the movie. Mm-hmm. So it's not like anyone's like, this is ridiculous what we're doing right now. Like, no, it's very normal, the behaviors that are going on.
Exactly. Like the mimesis of everybody is just perfect, on point.
Yeah. Even like the cops, and like when he calls the cop Checkerhead, the cop gets like really offended. Mm-hmm. It's just like he didn't call him a pig. He didn't call him anything like that. He called him Checkerhead, and the cop's like,
what did you say? Yeah, he kind of had like that, like, high school bully sort of mentality. like
oh yeah,
yeah.
It's just funny. It's just ridiculous. And then the nails that Casanova uses to fight, like his just really long nails. Like,
oh yeah, he has pinky, like the Coke nail.
Yeah.
Like scratches people and everything.
Like all of his nails are really long, and I remember like I'm watching the sequence and I'm like, his nails are so long. I feel like they should have acknowledged that his nails are so long in this sequence. Like, yeah. That would be my one thing.
Well, what's actually kind of funny also about that is like, when Captain Amazing first shows up, after he's like cleaned up, it's like, I'm expecting a friend, and he goes away, and it's like, and Captain Amazing bursts through the door or whatever, and he's walking down the stairs. He goes like, oh yeah, like those poison darts in your slippers, take them out. And it's like, oh, take that off of your ring, or take, think like a bobby pin out of your hair, all that stuff, like the drink stirrer, things like all those little tiny little Bond villain-esque sort of like lethal gadgets that he has all over him.
Yeah.
It's like, we know each other so well, don't we? And then they use like the remote control, like, chloroforms to spray. The fact that he's got all of these things, Casanova Frankenstein's got all of these things at his disposal, and that's what he likes to use. The fact that he uses just like his nail, like his fingernail, just as like the ultimate like fighting hand-to-hand weapon.
As like a knife.
Really? That's what you use? So I think that's it's just like, that's actually pretty hilarious. And nobody seems to mind. It's just like, by the end, it's like, yeah, he's just fighting people with his fingernail. No one seems to care.
Well, he's like threatening to slash her throat with his nail. Like, that's the whole thing.
Exactly. So even this guy's fingernail, he's got all this stuff at his disposal, but it would have taken like a second to do, just to like grab like a little knife, like in a jump cut or something. But like, nope, it's like, I killed him. But
yeah, no, it's great. Jeffrey Rush is very, very good in this film, and I feel like that he doesn't like. Talking about, I haven't given him anywhere near as much credit as I should have. Like, we've been talking about like the character is great, but Jeffrey Rush is so convincing as what is it? Casanova Frankenstein. And like, just listen to the name, Casanova. Like, okay, like, it's just ridiculousness on ridiculousness.
In a way, I mean, in a way, they were going for sort of an oxymoron with that, because Casanova, and he's the Casanova. He's very handsome. He's very suave.
Yeah.
Whereas Frankenstein, by the way, Frankenstein I am totally on board with that. Like, no, Frankenstein is the creator, not the creature, but that's not, they were probably going for it. They were referring to the creature as Frankenstein. But, he's like all cut up, he's a monster, and he's just destroyed. So in a way, that's kind of what he does, in the sense that, like, he lives this very lavish, he wears like a lot of velvet, and he's got, disco henchmen that are waving, that are just like to the nines with bling, and he's got this over-the-top mansion that was also used for the movie Casper, by the way. I don't think we mentioned that, but the mansion, Casanova Frankenstein's mansion, like one of the sets that they used in the 96 movie Casper, where they used that as well, like Whipstaff, I think that's what it was called. They recycled they recycled that set for this movie, and they also recycled a lot of sets for this movie from Batman Forever. But
yeah, no, that
but
definitely
it is
like
an oxymoron in who he is. But then he turns people into a monster, in the sense that in the sense that he just like Victor Frankenstein in the book, he's got his creature laid down. He's got like the huge like lightning bolt, and he creates like the disfigured monster that turns into that Captain Amazing becomes. It is sort of it's kind of an oxymoron in that, like, yeah, he's a beautiful disaster in a sense, you know what I mean?
And we might have talked about this in the commentary, but like, let's just go over the fact that Michael Bay is also in this movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like, dude, I think not too many people know this, but Michael Bay played himself in this movie. I'm sure. It's like, dude, can we bring the brewskis? That was like his one line in the movie, dude, can we bring the brewski? It's like, of course we can bring some brewski. First of all, nobody's called them brewskis since like 1988. Yeah. Okay, that I remember like it was funny.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's
like, who the hell calls them brewskis anymore? But that's one of those things. Like if I like walked up to a group of guys like, hey, do you want a brewski? I'd probably get punched and then they'd take my beer. But but it's still like,
yeah.
But it's like, but that's what's so great about it too, because like that's what sort of adds sort of like to the timelessness of this, in the sense that, he's like a 1950s guy, so it sort of fits his character. But you got more like postmodern guy, like gang members, like what's the name of that gang? It's like they put like they're the rappers, you know what I mean? Like the rapping gang. It's got actually, and CeeLo is actually one of the guys too. CeeLo Green. He's one of like the rappers.
Like CeeLo Green? Oh
yeah.
My God.
Yeah, he's one of, it's like,
yeah, I was going to ask if they were, if any of them were anybody.
It's so cool. It's just like, there's so many, so many just little cameos in this movie that are hilarious.
So many like great, like nuanced moments. Like when you talk about the rappers, like they all go through their things and the last guy just goes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
like his thing.
It's just like there was nothing too small to make a good joke.
Yeah.
Kevin, you have anything else you want to add to the?
If you haven't seen it, you are truly missing out. Go watch it. It is, it holds up. It's surprisingly more relevant now than it was when it first came out. And there's not a whole lot of movies that you can make that claim. Because at the time that it came out, it looked like it was just some sort of silly parody of superhero movies. But when the status quo of today, it's and it holds up, because it seems like it's not even like a parody; it's a loving parody, which is, because when I think of like a parody, I think of like that superhero movie that came out. That's what it's called. It's along the lines of Scary Movie or Not Another Teen, like those terrible parody movies. I think of that as like a parody, but this is more of a loving spoof as opposed to anything else. Because you could tell there was a lot of love that went into this, and it really shows. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's remained such a cult classic. And granted, the fact that superhero movies are more popular now than they've ever been, but it's also, you can really see the love that went into making this. And
I agree with that.
And its sense of humor. And I think that's what sticks around. Yeah. I don't know. How about you? Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just if you haven't seen the movie, I'm very disappointed that we spoiled it for you, but you brought it on yourself, and
you've had 21 years to watch it. It's on you. No,
yeah,
no, but And that is another episode of Plastic Addicts. Again, I'm Kevin Lacey.
And I'm Ryan Call. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe below. And stay tuned for our next episode.
Peace. Stay safe, everyone.
Deuces.